Good fight. Very good fight. And a close fight. Shawn Porter wins a 12-round unanimous decision over Danny Garcia to capture the WBC World Welterweight title. Let's talk about it. I picked Shawn Porter to win the fight, alright? And I'll explain why that's relevant in a second. But I picked him to win the fight, and I thought that Shawn Porter, don't get it twisted, I thought this was razor close and I was struggling to pick a winner before the fight, but eventually I think I sided with Porter in the last video I did. And the game plan that I thought Porter would use for this fight, and the game plan I thought was best for him to use, was exactly the game plan that he carried out, where he wasn't just marauding forward, throwing relentless punches and applying relentless pressure. The game plan I envisioned for Shawn Porter was for him to use his legs a lot. And the reason why is because Danny Garcia is a flat-footed fighter who doesn't cut the ring off well and who has often struggled at numerous points in his career against fighters who move on him. If you stand in front of Danny Garcia, if you're hyper-aggressive, that actually plays into his hands a lot of the time. But if you move around the ring, he can struggle. And in the early rounds, Garcia was actually timing Shawn Porter very well. Porter's movement wasn't bothering Danny Garcia. Porter was moving around as I expected he would. But I also expected, and for me this was the best way for Shawn Porter to go about it, this was part of the game plan that I envisioned for him, was to box in a similar way to how he did against Keith Thurman, where he would move around the ring in spots, and then he would attack, and then he would get back out again, you know, in and out, confusing the opponent and keeping the opponent guessing. And what happened is Shawn Porter started to read Danny Garcia. After the first few rounds, I gave Garcia the first 3. Then I gave Porter the 4th. By the 4th round, Porter had figured out what Danny Garcia was doing, which punches he was looking for, and what angles he was throwing the punches from. And once he figured out Danny Garcia's moves, Shawn Porter started to get a foothold in the fight. I gave Shawn Porter the 4th. I gave Garcia the 5th. I gave Shawn Porter the 6th and 7th and 8th. I gave Garcia the 9th and 10th. Then I gave Porter the 11th and the 12th I had even. I'll talk about my score in a minute. Yeah, it was a close fight for me. Very competitive fight. Danny Garcia was landing a lot of clean shots and he was a lot more efficient because his accuracy was better. Porter was wasting more punches but throwing a lot more. So it was one of them situations where do you prefer the man who's throwing a lot less but landing at a higher percentage, or do you prefer the guy who's throwing a lot more but landing at a much lower percentage? Both of them were landing maybe similar numbers of clean punches throughout the fight. So it was one of them kind of situations where there were rounds that could have gone either way. There were, you know, a number of swing rounds, very close fight. By the end of 12, I thought it was razor close. I actually had Danny Garcia 1 point up at the end of 12 rounds. I had it 115 to 114 to Danny Garcia. And again, that's why I mentioned before the fight that I picked Shawn Porter to win. Okay, so me talking about the scores, which I'm going to now, you can't look at that and say, oh, well, Hatman's trying to defend a prediction that he got wrong. No, I got my prediction right. I picked Shawn Porter to win the fight on points. Okay. The fight was close enough for it to have gone either way, but the scorecards that the judges had, for me, were a little off. You had one judge had it 116, 112, another judge 115, 113, and the other judge 115, 113. So 2 judges there had it for Porter by 3 points, and the other judge by 4 points. Particularly the 4 points, that's a bit wide for me. That is just a bit wide for me. I can't argue with the decision at all. Okay? In terms well, I can't argue with the result. Porter winning on points, no problem with that result. But I do feel like them scores were a little wide. You know, I'm not saying there was corruption involved at all, because at the end of the day, these are welterweights. These are guys who move very quickly. The judges are sitting at ringside. They don't have as clear a view of the action as we do, actually, watching it on television. So we can maybe see which shots landed and which shots didn't. better than the judges sometimes when they're sitting at ringside, when they might just see a guy's back. The little welterweights are moving around very quickly and throwing fast shots. You're not sure what landed and what didn't. So, yeah, it was, to me, a close fight. I thought Garcia just shaded it, but I have no problem with anybody thinking Shawn Porter won the fight. And as I keep saying, I picked Shawn Porter to win myself. Right, that was my prediction. Could have gone either way at the end of the day. But yeah, razor close. Very good fight. Shawn Porter's the new WBC welterweight champion. And Errol Spence got in the ring after the fight, called him out to his face, said, let's unify, let's do this. And that's definitely a fight I'd like to see too. Errol Spence versus Shawn Porter. Let's see if they can get it done. It's all Al Heyman fighters here, so there shouldn't be any issue when it comes to the politics. Keith Thurman was ringside, and he was getting booed every time he appeared on camera for whatever reason. I've got no idea why, but they were constantly booing Keith Thurman. Thurman must be looking on with frustration because he beat both of the guys that were fighting tonight in Shawn Porter and Danny Garcia. So, he must be thinking, man, I wish I had that belt back because that used to be his belt. We'll see whether Keith Thurman can come back, but his injuries appear to be, pretty chronic. Let's see. Anyway, let me know what you guys felt about the Shawn Porter-Danny Garcia fight. Who did you have winning it? And what did you think of the scores? What were your scorecards? Again, just to reiterate, Shawn Porter winning the fight is a fine result as far as I'm concerned. There was no issue with Shawn Porter winning. No issue with Danny Garcia winning. I just feel like Garcia just slightly edged it for me, but maybe if I watch the fight back a second time, I might have Shawn Porter edging it, Shawn Porter is underrated in terms of his boxing brain. That's one thing I'll tell you as well to close out this video. Because a lot of people just think of Shawn Porter as this wild caveman who comes swarming in with wild punches. In my pre-fight video, I said that Shawn Porter was well-schooled. I said both of these guys are well-schooled. And some people were mocking me in the comment section saying, what are you talking about well-schooled? Porter's just a wild man who throws wild. You see, you're not paying enough attention. The people who left them kind of comments in my pre-fight video, you're not paying enough attention to Shawn Porter when he's fighting. Shawn Porter is a very smart fighter. Very smart tactically. Yes, he can get wild sometimes, but he's well-schooled. He has a good boxing brain. He uses his legs well. He uses his athleticism well. And he confused Danny Garcia in the end. That's why Danny Garcia's lead was eroded by the midway stage of the fight by Shawn Porter. Because Porter had figured out what Garcia was doing. And he was offsetting it. And he was confusing Danny Garcia. Porter's erratic movement and Porter's unpredictable attacks had Danny Garcia confused. Yeah, that's what was going on there. Garcia just did not know when Porter was going to attack, what angle he was going to attack from. And he slowed right down, towards the middle stage of the fight when Porter started reading him. So give Shawn Porter his props for being a lot smarter than people give him credit for. Yeah, good boxing brain on him. Good tactical fighter. So yeah, I enjoyed it. Good fight. How did you guys score it? Drop it all in the comment section below. It's happening, I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.